Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Sage. I'm a clinical psychologist in Newport Beach, California. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about attachment. So we're going to dive right in. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to teach you 5 must-know facts about attachment and actually what is attachment. We're going to get into that too. Okay, the first important thing to know is that you are not dysfunctional and your attachment style is not dysfunctional. You had to adapt to certain expectations to get your needs met as a kid. And so these were really strategies you developed to survive. And they work, they kept you safe. They just don't work as well when you're an adult and you're in your intimate relationships. Your attachment style is a general predetermined type of zone of attachment, but it's not permanently fixed. So you need to know that we can learn to earn security. We can learn to engage and conduct ourselves in ways that can help bring us closer to people and into healthier connection with others and ourselves. The third thing I want you to know about attachment is that each person you're with is going to bring out a different attachment style for you. And so yes, you have your main sort of general type of behavior or zone or style, but depending on the type of partners you choose and the kind of relationships you're in, that is going to affect how you engage, how you act, how they act. And so it's like this reciprocal dance you're doing based on each of your own attachment styles. The fourth thing I want you to know is that attachment is impacted by many different factors. It's not just about how you were parented, although that is a huge part of it, is how your caregivers met your needs and what was their responsiveness and what was the mixture of temperament and all of that. But it's really important to know that many other factors also affect the way the attachment process lays out. So if you have an easier temperament as a baby, that can make an impact. That's really important to know. What kind of parental satisfaction in the marriage your parents had, or were you being raised by a single parent? What was the stress level? What was the financial burden? Was there a lot of depression or mental health issues going on with your primary caregiver? Did you have much social support? Did you have a village? Were you just really on your own with your parents? That can really affect you or your parent. Fewer hours with a non-parental caretaker. So how many hours did you spend away from your primary caretaker? All of those things are going to affect your attachment style. Okay, so let's get started and talk about what is attachment. What is the root of it that I want you to know? Here's the bottom line. Your attachment system or style is rooted in the type of caregiving you had between you and your primary caregiver when you were an infant. And it even actually can go back into the womb, because if you think about it, we're attached by an umbilical cord from the time we're conceived. And then we come out and that umbilical cord is cut. But if we didn't attach to somebody, if we weren't able to breastfeed back in the day before formula, if someone couldn't feed us, we did not survive. So we need other people and connection to survive. And so the interplay between what kind of baby was I and what kind of primary caregiver were you is going to affect sort of how I begin to understand relationships and getting my needs met and how people respond. What does love look like? What is care, compassion, availability, consistency, dependability? What does all of that look like? That is what attachment is about, right? And none of this is meant to shame or judge anyone or their childhood, but we're trying to understand, why do you do the things that you do? And so much of our behavior, especially in relationships, is rooted by and in with our attachment style. Now, there are many other factors I'm going to talk about in other videos related to your nervous system and many other sort of neuroscience-y, nerdy-based topics, but I'm going to break them down in a way that I think you will find helpful and powerful. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I want you to know is that attachment has been studied hundreds of times and in different ways. And so this is a very solid researched concept with regard to psychology. Now, there are some debates about how predetermined, how fixed is it? And I like to think of it more in a flowing way, more in a spectrum, that you have your main attachment style, and yet you can also flow into other styles based on other people, other relationships, things like that. So bonding and intimacy and being cared for intimately helped us survive. And so we took that experience as a child, and that begins to be our map for how we understand adult relationships. So the need to be connected and to be cared for and regulated is such a strong drive in us as humans that the brain developed a special mechanism for us to do that. And the way this works is that we have these experiences and we begin to develop an internal working model or a map, or I like to call a planet, for our own relationship system and our own attachment world. This mechanism our brain developed is really our attachment system, and it's really comprised of our emotions and behaviors and all the ways that we begin to understand human relationships with ourselves and other people. So some basic tenets and factors around attachment are this. We monitor and maintain closeness with our beloved to ensure our survival, our safety, and to keep us just generally alive and well. When we have a need in a safe attachment relationship, we're going to reach out for that person just like we would as a baby to get our needs met. So we're sort of seeking connection in attachment. We miss this person when we're apart from them. When we're upset, we seek to connect with them. We count on this person to be there for us in the world. And the theory behind attachment really says that when I seek an emotional, intimate partner, they really should be my shelter in life, my safety, my security, really my security blanket in many regards. We want to do that in a healthy way, but that's really the core, is that all of our lives, from the time we're growing up through our adult lives, we're seeking connection, we're seeking security, we're seeking safety, and we're assessing with every single relationship, are you safe with me? Will you be there for me? Can I count on you? Okay, so now we're going to talk about briefly, I'm going to make a whole series of videos on each attachment style, but I want to just generally sum up what each style looks like in terms of how do people engage in relationships with these styles, okay? So if you are a person who has more secure attachment, you're going to be more reliable and consistent. This person is going to make decisions with you and be more flexible in organizing and negotiating your relationship dynamics. They're going to be generally a good communicator, and they're going to be pretty good at compromising and not really afraid of commitment. If you have secure attachment, for you, relationships aren't always hard. You're able to navigate them. Remember that river of flowing well-being? You kind of know how to navigate. If you're dating somebody who is secure, they tend to want to continually seek closeness towards you in a gradual way, in a sort of healthy building of connection. They will introduce you to people that they're close to pretty early on. They will naturally express feelings towards you for the most part, and they're not really big game players. They're pretty much what you see is what you get. You know, we all have to start with the beginning. We're not just like dumping out our real feelings, but it's like a gradual progression of leaning into the relationship. So these are the types of characteristics you're going to see with somebody who has a more anxious attachment. They tend to make things about themselves. They tend to be highly anxious and obsessive and, often go sort of like down the rabbit hole in their head of analyzing things. They tend to let you set the tone in the relationship, and they're often really preoccupied with the relationship and thinking about it and what's happening and where's it going and what is my role, things like that. They worry a lot about the little things in the relationship. Like I was saying, they're the ones that if you send them a text and you had like 5 emojis in the first text and only 2 in the second one, that actually means something to them. And it actually might mean something, but they're really going to read into it. They're frequently suspicious, and they feel like relationships are a lot of work. They require a lot of emotional energy for those people who have anxious attachment. And they also want a lot of closeness with you. They're often insecure and looking for rejection sort of everywhere. They're sort of scanning the environment for you to reject them. They often can feel easily abandoned. They often don't do well being alone. They have a hard time being just on their own. They might play games or act out to get you and keep you. And oftentimes when you ask them what's wrong, they have a hard time explaining and understanding what that's about. So as I said, I'm going to come back and do a whole video explaining a lot more. There's a whole lot more to anxious attachment than what I just described. So we're going to cover that, and also we will be covering sort of what the parenting looked like if you have anxious attachment. People with avoidant types of attachment often give you mixed signals. They highly value their independence and their me time and alone time. They often have lots of boundaries, and they will use sort of distancing strategies. They often have unrealistic ideas about romance, and ironically, they often think that everything's fine. They have no idea things aren't fine sometimes in their partners. Sometimes they can be mistrustful, and they can be a bit rigid in how they approach things. They often have to leave arguments. They really can't tolerate a whole lot of intensity in that regard. They just tend to shut down. They often have a difficult time talking about issues. So you don't even know, you'll be saying, well, what's going on with them? You'll be saying, well, what's going on? I don't understand. And they'll be like, I don't really know either. I'm fine, oftentimes. They really have a hard time connecting to that deep emotional content. And I'm going to come back and tell you later why they do that. Where did that come from in terms of their childhood and their attachment style? People that have a more fearful style, a planet filled with more volcanoes, they have that stable instability, as I said. Relationships are high highs and low lows, and it's often difficult for them to manage a relationship. If you think about it, the reality, as I said, the bottom line is that the source of comfort and safety was also the source of fear. They're afraid of being rejected, and so they're constantly creating situations where you kind of want to do that with them. Often can have mixed or borderline personality traits. There's this constant storminess for people with disorganized attachment. And they can't go to their partner because they're afraid of rejection. And so that's an impossible dilemma, right? If you can't go to the source of safety and security because you're afraid you're going to be hurt or rejected, you end up acting out and engaging in ways that are very dysfunctional and unhealthy for yourself as well as the relationship. And as I said, much of this is rooted in trauma and neglect and abuse or other types of environments like that. But the root of it is the source of security and safety was also the source of fear or terror even. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, and please feel free to introduce yourself in the comments and let me know what you want to know more about. As I said, I'm in private practice and I love what I do. I truly believe that therapy is a sacred process, and I truly believe that you are sacred too. So please take good care, and until then, I'll see you next time.